Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome to the Marco Duray Show, ladies and gentlemen. It is Thursday, July 10th. Thank you for being here as always and tuning into the show today to stay up to date on all the groundbreaking news where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. Please make sure you like the show, follow, and share with some friends. I do appreciate when you do that. And we have a lot to cover today, so let's dive right into it, shall we? This article I have today by Paul Craig Roberts really kind of illustrates what's going on in our economy. And I want you all to hear this right now because, again, we need to hear the truth. As you know, Donald Trump passed the big, beautiful bill on Independence Day. And again, we're told that it's going to boost the economy. It's supposed to bring in 6 million new jobs. We've heard about, all this other nonsense about it. Okay, I'm willing to give it a try. I really am. And again, on the abstract, the bill looks good, except for the excess spending that we have, the deficit spending that we're seeing in there. We're not cutting down any of our national debt, which again, to me, is a problem. We need to be working towards that. Again, we're told it's going to get paid for. All right, so again, I'm willing to give it a chance. I've been wrong before, not very often, but I've been wrong before. And I want Trump to succeed. So I say, okay, I'll give it a chance. We'll see what happens here. But where are we right now in terms of our economy? Let's take a listen to this. He says that globalism destroyed American jobs. What does he mean by that? Well, he goes on to say, for many years I reported monthly on the jobs reports from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And of course, over the years, he has obviously seen that the consistency of these jobs were in health and social assistance, waitressing, bartending, and government employment. In other words, jobs, again, that are not really producing very much. I think we all could agree on that. Now, the manufacturing jobs, obviously making things that we could obviously export to pay for the imports that we so graciously spend all of our money on, simply are not present. And why is that? Let's talk about that for a second. Why is that? Well, a lot of it has to do with the fact that we started to outsource to China because, again, it was cheaper labor. People didn't want to pay the high taxes, the red tape, the regulations. So again, they send the business over shores to China, obviously pay it much cheaper. And again, you're selling the goods here and getting a higher profit. That's why they were doing it. And it makes sense, right? Why would you pay somebody an X number of dollars here when you can save so much money by doing it overseas somewhere else and financing it that way? Less regulations, less red tape. You're still selling to one of the biggest markets in the world, the United States. So he goes on to say, I've emphasized that the jobs offshoring policy, that it's associated with globalism, right? We think about a global economy now, right? And again, it was industrializing. There we go. The United States and destroying the middle class and, of course, the ladders of upward mobility that had once made America the most opportunist society. I think that all makes sense, right? The things that we created here, the innovations we had here. I mean, we were just on a roll. I mean, look at the innovations the United States has. Look how it has changed the world. That's not necessarily so nowadays. That's the big problem. Yes, in many regards, we are up to date on a lot of things in the tech world, but where are we manufacturing these jobs? If you look on the back of your iPhone, it'll say, designed in California, manufactured in China. Look at the back of the box, it says made in China. Made in Taiwan, made in Vietnam, made in Canada, made in Mexico. I mean, over and over again. Even the flags we have, made in China. I mean, come on. But again, people want to make more of a profit. And we can thank, obviously, the massive inflation we've had. And, of course, the devaluing of our currency since Woodrow Wilson brought in the Federal Reserve Bank. That's a big problem. The value of our dollar today is about 2 to 3 pennies of what it once was. So you need more dollars to make up for that. So now he goes on to say, I held accountable the economic professors at Harvard and Dartmouth who promised us that the loss of manufacturing jobs in America, which they derided as dirty fingernail type jobs. This is like the Bernie Sanders approach. You know, anyone that works with a hammer and anything like that is a dummy job. I'm not going to do that. These are good paying jobs in many regards. A job that requires you to have some type of skill. But we see how the academic elite think about these jobs. Nobody wants those jobs. Let's just put them overseas. We don't need them. They're going to be replaced with higher paying, clean fingernail type tech jobs. Oh, everyone's going to work in the tech industry, right? And then again, no such jobs ever appeared in replacing of this manufacturing force that we once had, which now ceases to exist in America in many regards. Now, it's important to note that Trump obviously understands this, which is why he's been trying to bring these jobs back. That's why he's trying to get different countries to invest in the United States, which again is a very positive thing. So if we can create 6 million manufacturing jobs in the United States, that's a good deal. Because then we're not going to be importing as much from abroad. We're going to be making goods here. And again, we're going to drill baby drill, as he has said, which will bring the cost of gasoline down, I hope, as it once was. It'll be cheaper to send the goods to market. That is a much better situation, if we can pull that off. But if everything stays, again, overseas, it's going to become a problem still. He goes on to say, fortunately, the United States being the world reserve currency, which again is being threatened by the BRICS nations, by the way, allows the United States to pay its bills by printing treasury bonds. Again, people buy the bonds. Obviously, we make money off that. And again, as the treasury bonds are the reserves of most foreign central banks, there has been a constant demand for more reserves, right? So we print out more bonds, thus financing the United States debt, which has been no problem. When the U.S. debt grows, so do the reserves of the world's central banks. Now, the problem here is inside America. The manufacturing jobs are a high productivity, high value type job. Therefore, so is the wage which you get. Now, again, these replacement jobs that we see now, right? Stocking shelves, working for, Starbucks. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with these jobs. Everyone should start off with a lower type skilled job at some point. The lower productivity, right? Nothing's wrong with the job, but your idea is you're not going to stay there forever. We need to understand this. This is why it was so dumb when Bernie Sanders said, every fast food company must pay a living wage so everyone can buy a house with the money. I mean, come on. You're going to stay at McDonald's for 35 years? Really? Those are menial jobs. They are starter jobs. And yes, I think we've all worked them. Again, sometimes people work those jobs as a part-time job on top of their other job that they work. But it shouldn't just be your end-all, be-all, is all I'm saying to you. Now, consequently, the growth from the income from these wages stagnated. Of course, they declined. And now today, American living standards are more based on credit than on productivity. That is a big problem. That's a major problem. So the engineering and design follow manufacturing. When the manufacturing leaves, which it has in America, so do the engineering, so do the design jobs. By and large. And America becomes a loser. China became the main winner because, again, look at what they're exporting. That's why we have a trade deficit with them. We are getting more exports from China than imports going to China. That's the problem. That's what the trade deficit is all about. We are taking in more than we are producing, folks. Why can't anyone figure this out? I was watching on Fox News earlier. They're like, look at these tariffs. I mean, they're great. Look at the money we're bringing in. Yeah, who's paying for that? We are. You and I are paying that extra tax. I mean, 10%, 20%. You might not see it so much, but we're paying for that. We are paying for that. Nobody else. Look, we're winning. Look, we're taking $1 billion more. Oh, okay. Who's paying for that? We are. The dumb American is paying more for that. China's not ripping us off. We're taking those goods because we're not producing them anymore. That's the biggest problem. And the other problem, of course, as he mentions, Wall Street in America forced American manufacturers to offshore their production, mainly to China, in order to raise the profits from lower labor and compliance costs. Wall Street ordered U.S. manufacturers to meet the Chinese price, or the Wall Street firms would finance, obviously, the takeovers of these companies. We can think about our investment firms that we talk about sometimes. BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard. You've heard these companies. Going in and buying these companies. And again, they take over in many regards. They take over these companies, and of course, they move the product overseas. Clearly, Wall Street, as he says, is an anti-American entity when you look at it. Now let's talk about today. Where are we today? The June jobs report, right? 147,000 jobs. Everyone's going, yes, fantastic. It sure as hell beat Biden's what? What do you have that 1 month? 10? 12,000 jobs it created 1 month in his last year in office? I mean, that was ridiculous. But what are these jobs? Are they good paying jobs? Are they not? What are they? Many were in healthcare and social assistance. Leisure and hospitality jobs provided 20,000. State and local education provided 63,500 jobs. And again, the healthcare social assistance provided 58,600 jobs. That's it. Now, that's clearly not indicative of a robust economy. I mean, the 20,000 leisurely jobs, hospitality jobs, yes, okay. The rest are funded by the government, folks. That was the biggest effect of the Biden economy. Most of the jobs were bigger government jobs. They're not producing anything. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And if we're not producing, what are we doing? You tell me how America is a superpower instead of an emperor without any clothes, as Paul Craig Roberts closes. One other point of interest he talks about in this article. He says on here, according to Bloomberg News, artificial intelligence will soon eliminate 20 to 40% of jobs in American largest cities. That means robotics, the animation, they're going to start coming in and eliminating the low-skill wage jobs, right? Now, what's America going to do with a population displaced by the digital revolution and AI? What are they going to do now? What's Elon Musk's idea? Universal basic income? You don't do anything at all? What are we going to do if that is the case? And again, they're calling them humanoids. That's what they're calling them on the news. Humanoids. They can move faster. They can work longer. More efficient. So people are going to start investing in that. And a lot of these assembly type jobs, right? That people once worked. Think assembly line jobs. Those are all going away. They happen in a lot of automobile manufacturing plants. Right? You have a couple people on the floor, but mostly it's going to be this automation coming up. Why? Because they don't need breaks. They can do the job. It's a menial task in some regards. But look where we are now as a nation. We're talking about 20 to 40% of the jobs in America's largest cities gone. What's going to happen to those people? What are we going to do? We need to bring these jobs back, the manufacturing jobs, the good paying wage jobs. All right? We cannot be outsourced by artificial intelligence. That's the big thing now. That's the big thing. And that's what they're going to try to push us into. So, again, while I have hopes, and again, all I can do is hope at this point. That's all we can do. The bill was passed. We can only hope that the big, beautiful bill will help create a robust economy with several million more jobs that are actually useful that we can keep. That's really it, folks. There's nothing more to say on it. I mean, some people are going to look into automation and AI. They're going to say, goodbye, see you later. What are you going to do then? And again, why are we talking about bringing in people on the H-1B visas from India and other countries when we have engineers in our own country right now? I mean, I don't understand this talk. Trump's talked about it. Musk has talked about it. Why are we bringing in more people from the third world when we have engineers in our own country? Are you telling me that The United States is not leading in the engineer of academia? I don't buy that for a second. I don't buy that for. I think we have up to 120,000 people that graduate every year in this country with engineering degrees. And you're telling me we need to outsource that to other countries and bring in more people when we have it here already? Something's not right here. Something's rotting in Denmark. I don't like the way that sounds. We need to, again, I like the idea that Trump's putting in money to the type of jobs like carpentry, all those types of jobs, right? That's good, right? That's great. I like that. But we need to invest in our own people. And if we can't get people, we need to get people to start moving into those fields. But we already have those people. Because again, I've looked at the stats. 120,000 every single year. We've got the people that can do this, folks. We've got the people that can do this. We can do this. America is resilient when it wants to be. So we can do this, I do believe. And that's what we should be working towards. And then you're going to see a much, much better economy. That's my hope, at least. Let's move on to this Fox article I've got here now, though. This is important. It's been in the news the past couple days. It says that FBI launches criminal investigation of John Brennan and James Comey. Now, this is a whole big story now coming out, of course, about the Russia collusion hoax that took place. It says former CIA Director John Brennan and, of course, former FBI Director James Comey are now under criminal investigation for the potential wrongdoing related to the Trump-Russia probe, including allegations making false statements to Congress, the Justice Department sources told Fox News Digital. So, let's talk about this. This is an important topic. We need to understand this. This has been almost, how long? 9 years now? So now we have John Ratcliffe as our new CIA head, right? He's leading it now. And he's given this referral, of course, to Kash Patel, the FBI director, okay? Makes sense, right? Is anything going to happen? Probably not, but it makes everyone feel good. So it is nice to hear this. Of course, John Brennan's obviously making his way on MS Nobody Cares, telling everyone, oh, I can't understand this. You know, all the typical things you'd expect the left to do. And so here's the rundown. I'll give it to you how it is. John Brennan, the then CIA director under Obama, released this intel community assessment in the final days of the Obama administration, right? In January of 2017. So he pushes this report to assert that the Trump administration, the incoming president, Donald Trump, his campaign colluded with the Russian government, and of course, that Russia interfered in the election process by hacking into the DNC servers and, of course, aiding with WikiLeaks into all this damning information about Hillary Clinton, right? They try to sabotage the election. You all remember this because we lived through it. And you didn't hear the end of it on any of these left-wing news stations. So now, where did they get this information from this ICA report, though? Let's not forget Hillary Clinton's role in all this, by the way. That set this all into motion. She paid off this cybersecurity firm from Austin, Texas called CrowdStrike. And she got them to write up this report about Russian interference, of hacking DNC servers, again, to sabotage the 2016 election against her. And again, to this day, we're still not allowed to see the documents coming from CrowdStrike, or if there even was a leak, and where it came from. So now this brings in Christopher Steele, the Steele dossier. You've heard about that. Again, brought to you by Hillary Clinton. And again, Steele was a counterintelligence agent with ties to MI6, by the way, in London. Nothing to see here, right? Working on intel on Russia. So they primed the right guy, I guess, to push out this misinformation. He pushes a report, again, about Trump and Russian collusion conspiracy, stating that the Russian government was working with Mr. Trump to get him elected by cultivating people in Trump's orbit. This is what they're producing now. So again, they're asserting that Russia was now conducting these cyber attacks on both parties, by the way. Remember, Carter Page was involved in all that as well. So they published this information, right, to, again, delegitimize the Trump administration. And that's why we have Adam Schiff, a damn Schiff, come out now At the time, he had these meetings in the Capitol basement. And again, they try to bring this with a special counsel. You remember the Mueller investigation? All this. Again, $40 million later, what do we find out? There's nothing there. Really? That's all they kept telling us. We have all this damning information. Trump did collude with Russia. Trump was meeting with Russian officials. What do we find? Nothing. Nothing at all. It's unbelievable. And again, nobody went to jail for this. Keep that in mind. So now, what does John Radcliffe do, the head of the CIA? He's now charging that John Brennan produced this procedural anomalies in the ICA report, where he clearly ignored intel from the Defense Intelligence Agency and the State Department intel. He totally overlooked all this information. Everyone's saying, no, this is not what's going on. And he kept saying, yes, look what we've got here. The manufactured nonsense from Hillary Clinton, of course. So in other words, the whole thing was fraudulent. There's no other way to say it. Everything was fraudulent in this case. And yet Radcliffe doesn't go on to say that. So it's meet the new boss, same as the old boss, folks. What's Radcliffe going to do? Procedural anomalies? Really? That's it? That's all you're going to charge him with? Protecting the Obama CIA, folks. The Trump CIA is protecting its own institution. We've never seen that before, have we? It's all so ridiculous. Nothing's going to happen here, just so we're all clear on that. Nothing's going to happen at all. None of them have commented, of course, as of right now. It's unclear now, they're saying here, what's going to happen with Comey in terms of charges. Yeah, it's all smoke and mirrors, folks. It makes you think that something's going to get done, and of course, nothing's going to get done. That's the way it's going to be. Because as for Comey, DOJ sources told Fox News Digital that an investigation into the former director is underway, but can't share any details. Nothing's going to happen. It should happen, but nothing's going to happen. Again, meet the new boss, same as the old boss. We're seeing the same exact patterns play out right in front of us. Look what's happening with the Epstein files. And of course, the whole case. Same thing. You think something's going to get done, nothing gets done. You think something's going to get brought to justice, nothing happens. Same old, same old. And it shouldn't happen. It should definitely not happen. There should definitely be investigations. People should be getting tried in many of these situations, but we're not seeing it. So again, don't expect anything. It's not going to happen. But it'll be good theater on the news channels for you. Now, speaking of theater here, look at this. Look at this. Unbelievable. This is in the U.S. Sun. Joe Biden's doctor refuses to testify to Congress about the ex-president's health in behind closed doors hearing. This is unbelievable. I mean, it's as clear as mud, folks, that he was obviously experiencing some type of cognitive decline. I think we can all agree on that, can't we? I mean, based on just observing Joe Biden, shaking hands with the air, falling down multiple times, forgetting who he was talking to, bringing up people that have been dead for decades. I mean, come on. The Easter Bunny helping him around. I mean, come on. What are we doing here? But this doctor, this Kevin O'Connor, invoked patient-client privilege in his Fifth Amendment right to obviously prevent against self-incrimination during a closed-door congressional hearing about Joe Biden's health during his presidency. Now, this is ridiculous on many fronts, I think, because think about this. If we had a president whom the White House doctor is telling you, hey, he's great, he's fine, he's fantastic, he's sharper than ever. I mean, come on. He's great. I mean, this guy, remember Karine Jean-Pierre? Oh, my God, he works all the way around his aides. They can't believe it. He outworks everybody. Moron Joe Scarborough. Moron Joe. What does he say? You're going to see the best Joe Biden ever. I mean, he is fantastic. That's what we kept hearing from everybody. And then all of a sudden they had the debate and everyone was like, whoa, who's this? This isn't Joe Biden. This isn't the Joe Biden I know. Then, of course, you get the op-ed from George Clooney, obviously, stating that, he should step down. I mean, people couldn't believe this. But again, it was all apparent to all of us because we're watching this going, something's not right here. He's falling asleep. He's not doing any type of pressers. He's not even holding cabinet meetings. But if you have a White House doctor that is signing off saying, nope, this guy's good, this guy's sharp, then you get information from Robert Hurt saying, you know what? He was confused during this hearing, or not the hearing, but meeting about the documents that he stole, by the way. I'm not going to try him because everyone will just think that he's a kind old man who's very forgetful. And we're supposed to just blow that off like, okay, it's fine. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's so ridiculous. Again, this is why we have the 25th Amendment. Again, back to Woodrow Wilson. The great Woodrow Wilson, who was incapacitated for much of the end of his career. His wife was running the White House. This is why we have a 25th Amendment. When the president cannot perform basic duties, again, due to health, just incapacitated, or if something happens in that regard, this is why we have the 25th Amendment. Not because you don't like somebody, but because they cannot fulfill the job at hand. And again, how can he explain that, again, he's got a clean bill of health, and then all of a sudden we find out Joe Biden now has cancer, apparently? And it just doesn't make any type of sense, folks. So they're clearly doing things to prop him up the entire time. We knew this when he was running in 2020. We were looking at this going, what is going on here? Making up words, again, falling down constantly. Very, very awkward, folks. Very, very awkward. And again, he's going to just lie if he says anything. So he's going to say, can't say anything. I'm what did he say the whole time? I'm going to take my lawyer's advice and plead the fifth. There we go. That's good. That's good. That's saving America there. Right in front of our eyes. Now, this guy should be held accountable if he was fraudulently signing off that Joe Biden was fine, but he knew that he was not fine. So there we go. There we go. All right. Now, other people that aren't fine, I think we can all agree, my wonderful senator from here in California, Alex Padilla, is not fine, folks. He's not doing well. He doesn't like seeing the federal government follow its job of removing illegal aliens from the country and sending them back to their country of origin. He doesn't like that at all. And he was on MSNBC's The Briefing with the great Jen Psaki. Those are two high IQs right there, aren't they? And, of course, all he has to do is say negative things about Donald Trump and the Trump administration, and, of course, about this mass illegal immigration policy, right? And as all of you know, since you listen to this show, the big, beautiful bill allocates $150 billion, again, to finish the border wall, to help with staffing ICE, and, of course, Border Patrol, and all things of that nature. Okay? That's right. We're following the law now. The Biden administration did not follow the law. He didn't say a damn word about that, did he? He doesn't say anything about the 325,000 missing children that the government has lost thanks to the Biden administration and their open border policy, letting people from 170 different countries come into this nation. Now, folks, who could sit there and say this is totally fine? This is okay. And again, you keep getting the rap sheets of the people that they're arresting. The latest guy has been wanted in his country of origin. I forget which country he came from. Could have been El Salvador. I can't remember. But on their most wanted list. And yet, somehow, our Border Patrol let them right in the country. Folks, we can't survive on this. And no nation can survive like this. And it certainly won't go well if we were to allow that to keep happening. Thank God we are finishing the border wall. We're beefing up border security. And we're making the right deportations here. Now, in my estimation, everyone that's here illegally, I don't care if you've been here, I tell you this all the time. I don't care if you've been here for 2 hours, 2 years, 20 years, 22 years. If you're here illegally, you need to go back to your country of origin. And again, if there are people that speak the language, they assimilate, they have no criminal record, on top of, again, entering the country illegally, should that be all they've done? But then again, you've got the issue of, have they ever paid taxes here? Are they using a fraudulent social security number? Are they using a fraudulent driver's license? Because those are all pretty harsh crimes. I would think we all could agree on that. So there's a whole series of things we can look at. But again, if Trump really wants to, again, vet people and get them back in the country much faster, I'm fine with that. All right? I'm okay with that. As long as they come in through the legal process, the legal channels, they are vetted and they pay their way and they become Americans and they're not sitting on some government welfare program. That should be excluded if you want to come back in the country. You're not getting this. Okay? Because you've been here for so long and you haven't been doing it. You haven't been paying your way. You've been working under the table. Or, hey, you've been getting free health care that you're not entitled to. Now, some people will argue, well, certain state governments, like mine in California, the great Gavin Newsom, allocated some $250 million last year for illegal alien health care. Then we wonder why we're in so much debt. Anyways, Jen Psaki played him a video of Stephen Miller saying, what has it done to our schools? Of course, he's referring to this illegal migration of people into this country. What has it done to our schools? What has it done to our hospitals? What has it done to just our traffic in our cities? Every issue that affects our quality of life, public safety, drugs, crime, education, healthcare, waiting in the emergency room, are all exacerbated, worsened, and of course they're undermined by illegal immigration into this country. So then she asks him, he's sort of saying a version of the evil quiet part out loud. There in terms of what he wants to do. What are your concerns about what they want to do with this money? Referring again to the money allocated to the big, beautiful bill. But one of the first things he says, and it's very, obviously, not surprising, coming from Alex Padilla, because again, he's a known liar. But this is how he starts off. Let's take a listen.
Especially in Los Angeles, because it's clearly Donald Trump's target right now. And as you mentioned, the bill is actually pretty straightforward. You know, no face coverings, no masks, with certain exemptions to that. A requirement for something identifiable on the body, right? What agency do you work for? Is it ICE? Is it somebody else? And in most instances, it would be a name. There's a genuine concern about safety of some federal agents, and so maybe just a badge number or something identifiable for purposes of accountability. And we were strategic in crafting it by working with former ICE agents and former leadership of ICE to try to balance these concerns. Because, I mean, if you're out in the streets in Los Angeles, whether you're a citizen, a legal resident, or an undocumented immigrant, and somebody without these identifiers is approaching you, masked up, coming out of a marked car, you have no idea what's going on. And so I'm glad you shared some of the stories of ICE impersonators that are out there. I mean, it's dangerous for a community and dangerous for the agents themselves, because you never know how a person on the street is going to react when they think they're getting kidnapped.
Kidnapped. So he's pushing a bill. This is a response to all this. He is pushing a bill banning ICE and, of course, Customs and Border Patrol agents from wearing masks on their faces. And he wants them to have badge numbers. Now, we could talk about how damning this is because, again, if people's identity are leaked some way, or they're doxed in some way, or if it's posted somewhere, and now their home and their family and themselves are now at risk because look at the state of the Democratic Party. You have actual Democratic legislators and officials actually calling out violence now. And one prime example is Pramila Jayapal from Washington, saying it's so inspiring to see this pushback against ICE, condoning this fight. Have you ever heard a Democratic candidate or a Democratic leader or official denouncing any of the violence that you've seen against the ICE agents and any of the Customs and Border Patrol agents? You haven't. The only one you've heard it from is John Fetterman. He's the only one. Everyone else is on board with Alex Padilla. That they shouldn't wear face masks. They love face masks, right? During COVID, you couldn't stop wearing a face mask. Now all of a sudden, No masks. No, that's not good. We got to have. Everyone needs to see their face. Everyone needs to be able. Why? So they can take pictures of them. Again, you know people are getting recorded every time they're making these arrests. We're seeing it in San Francisco just recently, where there's people now actually accosting them when they're trying to make these arrests and detain somebody. Again, whom they know who they're going after. They're not just picking people off the streets. This isn't East German Stasi style. They know exactly who they're going after. Again, they're detaining them. I mean, you have people coming up to them with their phones out, right in their face, shouting profane language at them. I saw an example today in downtown LA. Trying to arrest a guy. The guy's unruly, so he's just going limp on the ground. They're trying to pick him up. And, of course, you have people out there shouting slurs at them, profane language. You all know this. And Alex Padilla's idea is he wants them, no face masks. So they've got to have a badge on of some sort. Oh, really? And again, all the gear they have on, it says, U.S. ICE. And an unmarked car. Why? So they can drive through the community so they can let everybody know that they're there? I mean, this is so stupid. He's such an idiot. He's such an idiot. And he shouldn't be because he went to MIT. But this is the state of the Democratic Party. This is what they want. This is who they are siding with. The illegal aliens over you. Again, Gavin Newsom said it himself. He said, these are my people. For once, I wish he would just say, my people are the American citizens, the people of California, who go out and work hard every day. These are the people I work for. These are the people that put me in office. Every single Californian. But he doesn't say that. No, these are his people. And by the way, the presence of ICE in LA is not going to go down anytime soon because, again, you have at least 1.2 estimated illegal aliens in California right now, in Los Angeles. There's definitely more in the entire state. But in LA alone, 1.2 million illegal aliens. That is a lot of people. That is a lot of people. So you're going to see ICE's presence in LA. You're going to see people starting to push back. It's going to start happening more, especially when you had over in Texas where they actually shot a ICE agent in the neck. And they're out looking for some of these people right now. There's one of them that's still on the loose. I think his name is Benjamin Song, who provided this group of lunatics with firearms. They're shooting fireworks. They're shooting weapons now. Shooting ammunition at people for doing their job. And Adam Schiff probably wants it too. But Alex Padilla wants them now to not use any type of face covering. It's unbelievable. It really is. Again, this is their rhetoric. This is what they want. They want to do everything they can to make it harder for them to do their jobs. Again, you're not going to see them going out and doing their job if they know they're not protected in some way. Where, again, if they are, coming down the street in an ICE van, really? You don't think there's going to be some type of pushback? Especially when we already seen people attack them using firearms? Which is against the law, by the way. They've never said anything about that, though, have they? Now, speaking of California, my great state of California, Gavin Newsom swings through South Carolina the other day. Ah, yes. Why is he doing that? Why do you think Gavin Newsom is doing that? Right? Why do you think Gavin Newsom is doing that? Well, there's several reasons why he's doing that. First of all, he wants to become president, which, again, I don't know how that's going to happen. But you see it happening already. You see it happening already. You see he's taking the pictures, the smile with the open mouth. That's a total San Francisco move, by the way. Shaking hands with different people of different minorities, of course. All that great stuff, right? So again, he launches this 2-day tour in South Carolina, calling on voters across rural areas and some GOP strongholds to exercise their moral authority in standing up to President Donald Trump and, of course, Republicans in next year's midterm. So he's already setting the stage. Now, he should be here in California because we have a wildfire, one of the biggest in the state this year. The Madre fires that are out of control right now in Southern California and San Luis Obispo. And whereas he's out in South Carolina campaigning for the Democrats. What does Gavin Newsom have to run on, though? That's what I'm wondering. I know it's going to be a tight midterm election. The Democrats are going to run, obviously, against and opposed to this illegal immigration, deportation of people. But what does Gavin Newsom himself have to run on? Because again, he wants to be president. We know this already. It's nothing new. You can see it as sure as can be. But why is he in South Carolina? Well, first of all, when we start primary voting, it is the first state that votes. So he wants to get a good start. He wants to win South Carolina. He wants to gain some momentum. He understands that it's important. And as dumb as he is, he knows he should win South Carolina. And then, of course, Iowa, New Hampshire. He wants to get the ball rolling. Set the precedent for the other states. I mean, you can look at Joe Biden, right? Joe Biden took what? He took 4th in New Hampshire, 5th in Iowa. Yeah, he still became the most voted for president in American history, folks. If you want to believe that, you're free to do so. But let's talk about Gavin Newsom's record. I think that's important. We should always talk about that. Well, I made this little list because, again, I had to live through all this. And I think you should understand this as well. Who was going to vote for this guy in the primary? I'm eager to know. Well, Gavin Newsom sits on the highest state income tax in America currently. That's right. The highest gas taxes and the highest gas prices in America. That's his dubious claim to fame. Also, a quarter of the state lives in not abject, but it lives in poverty. That's wonderful. So every fourth person in California that you meet lives in poverty, if you want to think of it that way. Wonderful, right? Highest homeless population in America, 186,000 as of September 2024. And by the way, those numbers have increased year after year despite him pissing away billions of dollars on it. Your taxpayer dollars, my friends in California listening. Highest cost of living, affordability, just look at San Francisco, LA, San Diego. All three of those states are some of the highest in terms of rent. And of course, the affordability rate for many people to purchase homes is simply not there. Ranked 47th in terms of the highest energy costs at 31.77 cents per kilowatt. The state average usage is 491 per month, while the national average is 855. Now, why is that? Well, because again, people can't afford the bills. That's a major problem. If you have to have your AC on when it's 95 degrees in the Central Valley, and you can't turn it on, where do you go? Well, you go to Walmart. You go to another major shopping center to get the AC because you can't afford to turn on your unit. Isn't that wonderful? And let's not forget, since we're on the topic of energy, that the state can't keep up with the demand, of course, in the power grid, and there are many brownouts and blackouts throughout California, especially this time of year when, again, many people are trying to turn on their AC units. It happens. Gavin Newsom can't figure it out, apparently. So there you go. So on top of people in lower socioeconomic parts of the state can't turn their AC on, thanks to Gavin Newsom, we also have brownouts and blackouts that affect that as well. Wonderful, right? We all have to look forward to this if Gavin Newsom becomes president, by the way. Second to last in public education scores. Not bad. Almost came in dead last. Reading, writing, and arithmetic. Half the kids in the state are illiterate, functionally illiterate. Second to worst roads in the nation, despite the exorbitant high gas prices that we pay in the high gas taxes that we're supposed to allocate money for this. And of course, we don't see it. The roads are not being fixed. They're still decaying as our infrastructure is. And of course, it's not going to get any better. Don't look for it. And by the way, they just raised the gas tax in July of this year. Gavin Newsom and his Democrat cronies in Sacramento were very happy to make sure they continue to push that up. Ranked number 1 year after year as the worst state in the country to do business and start business. Not a shock. Think of the red tape. Think of the high taxes. Not a shock at all. Some of the highest sales tax in the country, ranging from 6% to 10.25%. Wonderful, right? Very anti-parental rights anytime it comes to things like vaccines, anything involving medicine, of course. Think about the trans sanctuary state that is made for minors to get surgeries and whatnot, which again is illegal, by the way. But Gavin Newsom backs it. And you just saw him come out the other day. And again, he's going to fall flat on his face if he runs, folks. He's going to fall flat on his face. Even in the Democratic primary, he's going to fall flat on his face. Because he's too far out there. He just came out after Trump passed this bill, of course, that, you need to play in whatever sport in which, of course, your biological sex is. And, of course, Gavin Newsom comes out and protests against it and says, no. Whatever you feel like doing, go ahead and do it. Right? If it feels good, do it. That's his message to you. Obviously, he didn't take it away, but he backs this. He takes away, he could have not signed this bill, but there is no longer any type of medical exemption or religious exemption for getting these shots to attend public schools. So he did that. Very anti-parental rights in California, folks. And of course, they let the schools run the sex education. They push a lot of these ideological things in schools, unbeknownst to the parents. And again, that's why you saw 113,000 kids leaving LAUSD schools. Not a shock. Obviously, he doesn't handle wildfires well. Still hasn't figured that out. I just talked to you about the Madre wildfire, where I think it's 80,000 acres now are burning in California in San Luis Obispo County. Meanwhile, he's in South Carolina. Where was he during the Palisades and Altadena fires? Well, he's looking at it from a distance. Not a big deal. Hey, pass the buck on to the local government. Yeah. Doesn't build new water storage facilities. Doesn't do that. Right? So, drought after drought. He claims there's a drought, at least. Lets the water go right back in the ocean. By the way, we had some wet years the last couple of years. And instead of building more water storage facilities, reservoirs, all that good stuff, instead of expanding, right, which we haven't done since, I think, 1980, under the first Jerry Brown term, or tenure, I should say. Instead of doing that, what does he do? He pushed 20,000 metric tons of water back out in the ocean that we could use for our big agricultural community, right? Lets it go right out in the ocean. Unbelievable, right? And of course, we saw during the LA fires, we had reservoirs with no water in them. Hydrants that didn't produce any water when we needed it. And then again, LA burned. And of course, it's, someone else's fault. That's the only thing he can do. Pass the buck to somebody else. We know that he bent the knee to boys playing in girls' sports. We just talked about that, of course. He restricts oil leases. That's why we've had 3 major oil refineries in California leave the state. Again, good paying jobs, leaving for somewhere else. Crime rates. Oh, crime rates. Look at the crime rates, folks. Gone up profusely under Gavin Newsom, by the way. Absolutely ridiculous. We shouldn't be shocked about this. But let's go over a couple examples of this. California's overall violent crime rate increased by 1.7% from 2022 just to 2023. It's been going up ever since he took office. And of course, the passage of several bills that he was behind. Like the rest of the nation, California saw a jump in violent crime in the first year of the pandemic. The state's violent crime rate is still up by 15.4% compared to 2019. Now, one thing is important to understand here, and I want to share this with you because, again, this is very, very important. You're seeing a lot of these numbers go up and then they start to drop down or they fluctuate, right? And it's important to understand that there was 2 very important bills, not bills, but they're propositions, in the state of California that has made all this out of control. And one of them was Prop 47 in 2014 that Kamala Harris wrote the verbiage for. This passed in 2014, and it reduced the certain nonviolent crimes from felonies in California to misdemeanors, including theft and drug possession offenses, valued at $950 or less. So that means you had to steal over $950 before anything could even happen. And of course, the aim is to decrease the incarceration rates because, of course, it's unfair that more minorities are going to jail than white people. There you go. And see how that turned out for California. Anyways, it passed, and that was the law of the land until it got overturned in the last election cycle, finally. But we also saw Prop 57 passed. And that was to release inmates of so-called nonviolent crimes out into the communities much quicker. So people not serving or staying their full sentence. Gavin Newsom didn't want that. He wanted people to be out of jail quicker. And during COVID, what did you see him do? Releasing felons from jail faster. Not a shock, folks. Not a shock at all. So Prop 57, again, this passed in 2016 in California, allows parole consideration for nonviolent felons. Changes of policies or juvenile prosecutions. And authorizes sentence credits for rehabilitation, good behavior, and education. So again, they're releasing people early from jail. That's what you see there. And how did that do? Well, again, you see crime go up, but what's more? Again, you're going to see data that shows, oh, well, the crime rate actually didn't go up that much in California, or it's going down in many cases. And I say to people, yes, but you have to understand something. Because of this Prop 47, and you have to steal so many goods, you've seen it. You can go on social media and look at it. People going into CVS, just filling a cart and walking out with it. And again, nobody calls the cops because, again, the cops either aren't going to show up or they're not going to do anything because they haven't stolen enough money's worth to actually pursue that person. And in many cases, people are getting, again, that do get arrested for breaking, entering, and whatnot. What happens? Because of no cash bail in California, they're back out on the street again, doing it again. And after a while, people just, someone, robs your store, you don't even call the police. So you're not seeing the full effect of how lawless California was, particularly in the major cities. So while I can read you this data here, just understand that a lot of these thefts, robberies, breaking and entering, property crimes were all skyrocketing in the recent years in California. Just understand that. So if anyone tells you no, it wasn't, yeah, actually it was. But there Gavin Newsom is. He's going to try to run for president. I think that's all I've got on Gavin. Let me see here. Yes, of course, the refusal to let federal government operate ICE. He's obviously speaking out against that. California's a sanctuary state. You know what, though? This is great. This is good, too. You know what Gavin Newsom was actually number one in? He was the number one U-Haul salesman of the year. He really was. You know what, folks? I gotta, hang on. Good for Gavin. Number one U-Haul salesman of the year. They gotta thank him for that. People can't wait to get the hell out of California. Which brings me to my last point. Or one of my last points. By the way, he doesn't allow controlled burns in California. I should have talked about this with the wildfires. Doesn't allow controlled burns anymore, which means the fire department or fire officials or forestry department would go in, they would purposely start fires, and of course, they would put out the fire, and it'd be in this controlled burn situation. Well, Gavin Newsom won't do that anymore. He stopped doing that. And he also stopped the forestry department from doing sweeps to remove, obviously, dead brush, dead grass, dead foliage, whatever it is. He stopped doing that as well. So when these fires do begin, largely by arson, not climate change, as he would like you to believe, or the old fire lines we have in California that haven't been up to date, you now see these fires get out of control. And of course, they burn because, again, you have so much that to ignite these fires. Then you add that with the lack of response and whatnot, then you have this huge problem on your hands. So, not a shock. That's Gavin Newsom for you. And by the way, mass exodus of people leaving California. It got so bad that you even have articles written about it as of last year. This is in Business Insider from October, the very end of October 2024. It says the California exodus has continued. By the way, since the pandemic, it has been continuing. So much that we've lost a congressional seat in the state. Here's where most people are leaving the Golden State and moving to. Look at these numbers, though. Between 2022 2023, 690,000 people left California. Only 422,000 moved into the state at the same time. Movers were motivated by economic and personal reasons, like going out and being attacked by homelessness, parks being run by gangs, of course. Look at MacArthur Park. Look no further than MacArthur Park. You've all heard about it this week in the news. Karen Bass showed up and said, "These people are not welcome here. This is unacceptable," right? She's trying to say that there was a kids' daycare, something going on in the park. Nothing could be for that would never happen. But it's run by homelessness and of course, gangs. You walk through MacArthur Park, that's what it is. And it wasn't always like that. Just so you're all aware of that. But as of late, that's what it's become. A hangout for the homeless and, of course, the gang members. So, again, they did this sweep through the park. And, of course, she came out for a PR stunt. No shock there. And, of course, we talk about the cost of living and home ownership in California, which becomes more and more difficult for your average citizen in California. People are leaving. People are voting with their feet. They're saying, we can't take this anymore. We can't take the crappy schools with the crappy roads, with the exorbitantly high prices on everything in the state. So we're leaving. We're going to Texas. You're going to Arizona. You're going to Nevada. You're going to Florida. You're going to Tennessee. And again, you're seeing the jobs go with it. Which is why you've seen the GDP of California drop significantly as well. And only a fool like Gavin Newsom, Jerry Brown, and the other Democrats alike, along with the legislature that's been in power basically since 1959. The Democrats have controlled the state assembly, I think, for all but 2 sessions in that whole time frame. So you're looking at almost 70 years. You've had nothing but Democratic legislation. And since 2011, you've had nothing but Democratic governors now. Jerry Brown, and now you've got Gavin Newsom. And you wonder why the state's going to hell in a handbasket. Because these programs don't work. The money they allocate for the programs don't work. And it's, it's falling on its face right now. It's falling on its face. The numbers don't lie, folks. People are leaving California. And by the way, it's going to continue to happen. Because things are not getting any better. So that's all I'll say on Gavin Newsom. All right. One last article, though, I do want to go over before we end today's show. This is a good article. It's a health article. It's by the Forgotten Side of Medicine it talks about. And it says here, the great cholesterol scam and the dangers of statin drugs. So, the widespread belief is that, of course, this elevated cholesterol is the cause of cardiovascular disease. And there is a large body of evidence now that's showing you that the association between the two, that the lower cholesterol is, significantly increases one's risk of death. And what are they talking about here? Well, you're told constantly that, if your cholesterol's over 200, you got to get it down. If you don't get it down, you're going to have cardiovascular disease, heart attack, stroke, you name it. But that's not really the case. That's really not the case. And it's important to understand that if your cholesterol, right, which lubricates your blood, is very good for the immune system, by the way, once it gets below 200, your immune system starts shutting down, and it opens you up for so many other health issues. It's not a good thing at all. So there's a study in here. And by the way, they try to put you on these statin drugs, which are terrible to be on, by the way. I would never recommend anyone to go use statin drugs. But they have this study in here, and I want to go over it with you, because, again, I think it's important to understand. And it says here that they published this 57-month randomized study of 9,423 adults living in a state mental hospital. Could open up one of those in California. Or a nursing home. So again, these people that are being watched, right? We're not, it is what it is. People are in there for whatever reason. And the person running the study stated that finding out that replacing half of the animal fats that people are eating with vegetable oils, right? We have saturated fats, and they replaced it with vegetable oil, which is a seed oil, which I've told you never to use to lower their cholesterol, right? And for that, every 30 points it dropped, their risk of death increased by 22% is what the study found. So it was the exact opposite of what you thought it would be. Why? Because again, first of all, seed oils are horrible. They're the omega-6s. It's going to just totally destroy your arteries. But one thing they don't talk about in this article that I want to share with you is that it's not the cholesterol, really, in your blood vessels that is the big cause of this. So a lot of people say, well, don't eat eggs because eggs have a lot of cholesterol. If you have high cholesterol, stop eating eggs. That's nonsense. The problem is the sugar intake. And what happens when you have high amounts of sugar? Your body becomes more inflamed, right? The tissues become more inflamed, of course. And what happens is your blood vessels, they start to have these little tears in them because of the pressure on the blood vessel that's taking place, right? Or you have high blood pressure, things of that nature. Again, has nothing to do with cholesterol. So when they have these little minor tears in these vessel walls, what happens? Well, your body has this response loop that takes place, and your body starts to repair itself. Well, what goes to that tear? It's cholesterol. And again, what happens over and over and over again, you start to seeing the narrowing of the blood vessel. And of course, then you lead to things like plaquing, arterial sclerosis, things of that nature. And then, of course, you have clogged arteries, and then people have heart attacks, cardiac arrest, things of that nature. Not good for you. Not good for you at all. But I just want to tell you, the idea, though, that good and healthy cholesterol, right, that comes from animals, that comes from vegetables, not seed oils, which you should never consume, by the way. And again, never should be dropping your cholesterol lower than 200. It should be between 2 and 250. That's a healthy cholesterol. If you're doing that, you're doing the right thing. Okay? So why do I bring that up to you? Because cholesterol is not the culprit here. It's the high sugar intake. And we should all remember that. That's really the takeaway I want you to have from this article here. So, good cholesterol is good. But again, lowering the LDL or keeping a high density lipids, it's really not anything you should be looking at. Look at what you're eating. Are you eating good quality foods? That's what you should be focusing on. Nothing else, folks. Folks, I hope you enjoyed the show today. I hope you will share the show with some friends. As always, I always appreciate you listening. Make sure that you are keeping your house in order. Make sure you're staying square with God. I always tell you to do that. And again, make sure you listen to this show because you're getting the best news out there. Folks, I'll see you tomorrow on the next Marco Dre Show. Until then, be good, stay great. God bless you.